how we're treating all of this is we know there's gold here. Like, hey, there was a shipwreck over in the Caribbean. Like someone dropped gold on the beach and we're just out here with metal detectors. Like, hey, where's the gold? What is the business model where this makes sense for everybody? And that's what we're constantly sniffing. So we're playing around. Yeah. Welcome to the Smart Nonsense Podcast, where we talk about entrepreneurship, self-development, and challenging norms. Belky, today.
I'm coming at you. I'm coming at you, Pop.
Today, we're officially worth $200 billion.
Back. Last time you said that it lasted 4 days.
It was
4 days max.
It was 200 million last time. How about 1,000x? Let's step it up.
So
Belky,
it's all over. It all gets shut down today. We're gonna get there, Pop. I'm coming at you from a gravel parking lot in Benson, Arizona. All right, I got my bean juice. I'm here. I don't know the agenda. I don't know what you did last night.
We need it. We got a lot to talk about because here's the thing. You think it's crazy because we're changing. We're like, oh, should we be an LLC or an S Corp or a C Corp or whatever else there is? We change that every day. How about changing our entire business model?
Wait, this is funny. But before we get to changing the entire business model, we have been laboring over the decision for what type of corporation Clipt Media should be, and maybe this new thing we build, Clipt the Marketplace. And yesterday, finally, we're like, fuck it. Nobody's helping us. Whatever MailChimp was, because they're similar to us. We're doing what Ben Chestnut did. That's it. And we fired those off, and they were an LLC. But
bootstrap.
Then I went to
grow
bed.
Massively, sell for billions. That's all we got to do. So
your buddy Basecamp was LLC. That's also what got you really confused. Jason Fried from Basecamp. Similarly minded to you.
I love this lag we're working with. Nothing better than a good lag.
Oh, I got no lag.
Oh, really? You're right there. You just talk over
me.
That's
here.
How it works. He's right there. Hey, all right, Belky. I tweaked. I don't know why. I don't know how, but it happened. I was sick of shit.
I know why.
Let me just start. Okay,
game day.
Why did I do it?
Game day.
Oh, this is gonna be okay. I really like this podcast. It's gonna be insane because I tweaked for all of last night. I am on very few hours of sleep because I was just in my bed, just like this.
This happens to you
all night long. This.
To nothing. To thin air. I woke up with 58 messages. It's usually 8.
I was walking around on my terrace butt-ass naked last night at 4:30 in the morning. I thought I was all alone, just like listening to music, thinking of ideas and shit. And then I look over at that pool, the one that, oh, fuck, I'm charging well, you can't see it, but it's behind. I always talk about it. And there's a couple in the pool. I don't know what they were doing. Probably something dirty, but just 4:30. How about that?
You shouldn't be a couple in the pool at 4:30.
It's dangerous. Neither should you be a lone dude just butt naked running around with his AirPods in.
Also true.
But all right, what triggered it? The game day?
You showed up to game day. I didn't go to game day. I went to take a shower at the campground instead. So I didn't have the rude awakening.
Huh. Well, here's what happens with game day. We usually have an awesome all-hands call every Friday. It's like, hey, here's where the company is going. Let's talk about some fun shit with new people and other people we're welcoming to the team. And then we break off in little breakout rooms, which I recently figured out. And they're fun. They're like 4 or 5 people. You play games. You shoot the shit. I talk about my dating life a lot, and it's kind of fun. Here's the problem. Yesterday, there were 3 people who are some of the least talkative on the team, newest on the team, all in the same room. Luckily, I joined that room.
Oh, so
but
you're
when
hot
I
shit.
did, hey, you're welcome. So I joined the room, bringing the energy. But my first thing is like, sorry, like, oh man, I get distracted. So I might have ADHD. I just saw a plane, like an F-16 looking plane, just go right, like it goes like this. It was sick. But so I joined. And I'm like, hey, y'all, sorry, I'm bringing English, but luckily I'm cool. Like something like that. And they just look at me like, what the fuck is this? It was just absolute dead silence. I'm like, hey, sorry, because we were talking Tagalog. I'm like, hey, sorry, I speak in English. And they just look at me. I'm like, all right, this is a rough start. But then the new person, Kath, she's like, what do we do here? I'm like, okay, good thing I joined, because I clearly didn't preface this to anyone else. Pistol Pete wasn't helping out. Eric wasn't quite helping out on that front. But it was just, I'll spare you the details. It was just a real tough trying to bring the fun. And often, you know how I flounder most of the time when I try and
Small
crack
talk.
jokes.
Small talk is really tough.
It eludes
really
me.
tough.
It eludes me.
You know what I
so
love
it was
about
that
the
for
all hands
about
meetings?
30 minutes.
Everyone's on mute, all 40 or so of us, and it's just a stand-up routine for you. And I love it. I think it's hilarious.
I hate it. I want to get out of it. So, because every time I have a panic attack right before, I'm like, why am I doing this? What's the purpose of life? So, and I'm like, it's overwhelming. So basically,
You actually have pretty
maybe that
quick
triggered
wit.
it.
You have pretty quick wit. It's impressive. You're on your toes.
Yeah, sometimes. Here's the problem. I remember it was my issue when I joined improv. And improv is like, hey, just say the first thing that comes out of your mouth. I'm like, I don't think you want to hear the first thing that comes out of my mouth. So the
You are
slow
Mr.
wit
Radical
was me
Honesty.
going through 2 or 3 iterations of the first thing.
You're just
But
in parallel
sometimes-
universes. You're running the algorithms.
Quantum
You're like, if I
computing
say
in my
this,
head.
right, I'm going down that path. If I say this other thing,
Right.
radical honesty.
I don't. Most of the time, I pick a decent thing, but once in a while, I'll say something on pod like me running around naked or something weird, and then it's like, wow, Dylan said that. Also, speaking of weird things, Matt
Everyone's
told me
literally
to-
like, wow, Dylan said that. And then we're like, onward.
just gotta
Hilarious.
push on. But everyone's muted, so they just kind of like look around, but they don't really. It's tough. Hey, Matt wanted to ask how Athena's doing. Hope she's okay.
Fantastic.
Okay, awesome. I just had to get that.
Okay.
He said fantastic. Watch out. But so yeah, I'm tweaking and I'm starting to question everything. Yesterday was an interesting day because we're going into Clipt in 2022. That's why we're playing with all these different corporations. How are we going to structure? Like, are we going to raise money? Are we going to get bought out at some point? All these questions. But one of the biggest questions is, hey, what the hell do we do with Clip Media and Clip Marketplace? Sort of the two directions. Clip Media is what we're doing now. That's the agency, which we tried to productize in that we have just 10 for 10, one product. It's pretty dope. It's still a bit of an agency, but we're trying to get Jack, Henry's brother, Belky's brother, to run that. But he's got a new kid. I was going to say a new bank, but
Oliver Twist.
Olivier. They really dropped the ball on the E's, huh? So they have their child, and he's not going to be able to come on for at least a couple months if he does want to join. So that's kind of one issue we have is we're going to try and simultaneously run both. But we're most excited about the marketplace because that's this much more scalable version of what we're doing right now with our animation team.
It's right. It's a managed marketplace. So it takes us and all of our humans. Like it removes us from having to own the quality of our output. Right. Like if you go get a ride on Uber, the managed marketplace, the quality of your ride is dependent on the driver, not necessarily Uber. Uber gets you some baseline driver adequacy with background checks and driving tests, whatever.
Right. You never see someone with below like a 4.8 driving around in Uber. I don't even know if that exists. I've seen like 4.88 and I'm like, oh shit, this dude's sketchy. But I think that's what my ranking is too. But basically, we're going to build the marketplace. The question is, what business model should that take? And there are a ton. Like before when I announced, we're going to be a $200 million company by the end of this year or whatever it was, we were thinking of Rev, the Rev business model, which is basically they have like 60,000 transcribers that if you have a video, audio, anything, you throw it there and they just get to work immediately and they're paid hourly, but you never see them. You don't see who's on the back end. It doesn't matter to you. It's not like, pick your transcriber. And then you're like, John looks like he's good English. That doesn't matter. Just make sure they're good enough, guarantee like 99% accuracy, and then just keep ripping and they can be invisible. So we're playing with that
do
model
that, we were gonna boil the whole product down to really just captioning, right? Because like captioning's super objective. Right. You can't be like, I don't like the style of that. Well, it's just pretty words on screen, and it's easy and quick to do.
Right. So that was Clipt V1, the one that we thought would blow off. It's basically every, I don't know, 3-4 months, I'll have this crazy brain blast. And half the time it's a dumb idea, but it's going to at least be interesting for me. And Henry's like, hey, it might work. Let's try it out. And that's kind of how I'm treating all of this, or how we're treating all of this, is we know there's gold here. Like, basically, like, hey, there was a shipwreck over in the Caribbean, and we're just out there with our fucking, well, the shipwreck probably not. Like, someone dropped gold on the beach, and we're just out here with metal detectors. Like, hey, where's the gold? What is the business model where this makes sense for everybody? And that's what we're constantly sniffing. And so we're playing around. Yeah. There's like Fiverr, which is you're essentially selecting who you work on. The projects are different, but their original model was like, hey, one price point, $5. You come in, you buy it. They wanted to do sort of one-click creative work, kind of like Amazon of creative work. And then there's Upwork, which is a slightly different model. I think it's ongoing. So you're hiring a freelancer for like months.
Wait,
basically
really
a bunch of
quick.
different models.
In high school, I was going to send a weather balloon to space, and I really, really, really liked money. So I went on Fiverr and I made a post, and for $5, I would put an index card with your name on it inside the payload for the weather balloon. Sold none.
They're like, so you're telling me I want this thing to pop at 100,000 feet. No one's going to see it, and it's going to fall into the ocean. This guy's just keeping my money.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Easy. Darmesh.
Quit it with the alarms.
Wait, hold on.
Who? What? What's he need?
Let me get back. I'm coming back.
We're back, baby. The Apple ecosystem. Did you ever get your AirPods?
Dude. Yeah, they refunded me. That was success.
Nice. Okay.
But
one timer goes off and
fucking hell. And we're back. Yes, the timer did go off. For some reason, it's like Dylan wants to listen through his AirPods, so let me connect when the timer goes off. But the timer plays out loud, so I don't even get the point. Like, why did my AirPods connect? Whatever. Ecosystem. Point being, we were trying to figure out, and we are actively trying to figure out, what is the best business model of these many models. Maybe it's a new one, a completely different one that we haven't seen before. But we know people want animators. Why? Because say yesterday, I'm listening to My First Million podcast. Sam Parr, he's like, oh, I wanted to shoot this little video about me buying a home. And I put it up on YouTube. And then Sean asked him, he's like, yo, did you edit that yourself? He's like, yeah, I just hopped in Descript and just moved some shit around. And I don't know, it looks terrible, but like I did it. It's like, why does Sam Parr, who has $20 million plus have to go in Descript and figure out how to edit himself and do it in a terrible way? It makes no sense to me. And I was listening to Graham Stephan yesterday, who's the big money guy on YouTube. And he was like, yeah, I edit all my main channel videos still. I'm like, dude, you're worth so much money. Why are you doing this? Why does every creator also have to be this creative? It doesn't make sense.
It's
because
the
you have all
most
these amazing,
unspecific
interesting
knowledge.
people.
It's
Right.
the most unspecific.
And we both got started editing our own content. I think everyone on YouTube does. So like, if we're seeing only the people on YouTube that edit their own content, imagine everyone else that never wanted to learn how to edit, that is still interesting and has some cool story worth sharing. So we want to essentially give voice to those people. That's the like kind of grander vision of things. How do we do that? So now we're talking to people that reach out to us that don't want to sign up for 10 for 10. And we're trying to probe, like, hey, what would it look like, Clip the marketplace, where you would be stoked? It would be super easy. You could just come on. We'd hook you up with an animator and you just rip. Does that look like you're paying $100 a video and every video is $100 and it takes about a day and you get it turned around? Is it a subscription model where you're like, oh, I just get access to an animator for a month? Or it's like an on-demand model where you come in and you're like, oh, I want this project, and you have to specify the details. So we've been playing around with that for Clip Marketplace.
And what's your problem with Fiverr? Before last night, like, because you can do all of this on Fiverr,
don't know.
right? And why haven't you used it?
It just seems hard. It seems like I've clicked in it and I'm like, there are a bunch of people I have to sort through. Granted, they have reviews, so that kind of helps. But then I have to specify the project details. And I'm like, I don't want to do that. With the podcast, for example, I didn't use Fiverr. I went to onlinejobs.ph and hired someone full time. Why? Because I wanted them to, one, I didn't have money, so it was just more affordable than paying Fiverr every time. But two, they learn smart nonsense. I wanted to build the system so we could just have a content factory. So I was in the subscriber mindset. And that's what we've been trying to figure out with a couple people. This one guy, Don, from yesterday.
Donna Davidson.
I come on and I'm asking him, I'm like, hey, what do you want? And he's like, dude, I just want like a cool animator. Y'all do it the best. We pretty much hear from everyone. They don't know how to find people. When they try, it's a terrible experience. And so we're playing around with ideas, or I'm playing around with ideas on the phone. We've heard in the past, Sean Puri, he's like, oh, I loved what you did when you set up my podcast studio, where you just made a menu. You gave me like 3 to 5 different podcast studios of different creators. And you're like, pick one, we're going to make that. And granted, we had no idea what we were doing, but he tended to love the menu. So that kind of whittled down some of the choice decision fatigue that I had on Fiverr and Upwork when I just look at them. I still haven't really officially tried them yet, which I will. But that was kind of the one thing, was like, okay, we brought it down to 3. We'll just give you Don. We'll give you 3 awesome animators. And he was like, well, all right, so you'll send them to me and then I'll interview them and then see who I want to go with. And I guess I'll handle like the pay side of things. I'm like, yo, Don, easy. A lot of assumptions. He was just ripping. And what I realized is like, okay, one, people are used to, it's kind of like they're used to interviewing people. There's also like, they have to be comfortable to trust us that we're giving them the 3 best animators. And then it's like they have to deal with the back end of how do you pay this person and like deal with all that. So just a bunch of problems to solve. Belky, I'm sorry I'm talking so much.
I like your voice.
I like your voice.
I like your
But
voice.
So basically, I talked to you after the call. Like I brought up all these issues, and you had the brilliant comparison, which you said earlier. You're like, I think we have to make the Uber of video editing, of animation. You want to rip into that more detail, like what that actually looks like?
Oh, I was deep in a truck stop. How did that come about? How?
Well, I said the menu, and it's like, here's the menu, here's the different animators, and here's like who would potentially work best with you. And he's
right.
like, okay.
I was like, here's the problem. Here's the problem. When we put you in the room with someone, which we have at the media company, it becomes too agency-like. So I'm like, what does Uber do? When you log on to Uber, you don't get to see all the drivers available and look at all the reviews and see what people say, see if they have mints in the car and if they got bottles of water and if there's a dent on the car. No, when you get in the Uber app, you just see a bunch of black cars driving around. It's like someone of decent quality will serve you. And so I'm like, we need to model that so that when you come to work with us, we just pop you in the room with the person that we know can handle your project. And if they can't, okay, then we have to do some like troubleshooting and whatnot. But like, let's just put these 2 people together for some amount of time. You can only talk to that person when you're in the car with them, or you like, if you lose something in the Uber car, you can get in contact with them, but it's through an Uber phone number. Right.
And you don't know their names. Like that's a big question, is like, are these people nameless or not? Like with Clipt, the V1, they were nameless. You just submit to Clipt Marketplace and you just get the product back. We're playing with like, do you need to know their name? Well, not beforehand. Maybe like once you start working together, yes, but it doesn't matter at all when you're selecting. And we want to minimize that selection.
Right. I think what it comes down to is we know what's best for you creatively. The double-edged sword here is in media. The client often thinks they know what's best for themselves.
Oh,
that's what makes us very sticky.
So the difference, this is kind of a brilliant point. I remember I took a psychology class in college, and it was talking about the effect of opt-in versus opt-out. So before, there's this thing in Rhode Island where every child that's born, you can just get a free $100 to invest in a 529 plan, basically college savings account. Free $100, anyone that signs up. For 18 years
or something.
Right. And no one was doing it. And they're like, why the fuck is no one doing it? It's like, oh, you had to check a box. And you're like, free money, it seems too good to be true. I'm not going to do it. Whereas they switched it and they're like, oh, it's an opt out. So you're automatically enrolled but then you have to uncheck the box to be like, I don't want my child to get this for $300. And the use skyrocketed to like 95% or whatever from 20%. I forget the numbers, but it was astounding. So it's kind of the same idea. We're like, hey, instead of opting in to one of these creatives, same thing with an Uber, you don't opt in to get Javier to drive you around. You just get paired with him. And then if you want to cancel the ride because you see he's got bad reviews or something, you can do that. And there's no risk to you essentially. So we're the same way. We're going to pair you with one of our animators, and it's risk-free in the sense that, okay, you're signing up for, say, 1 month with this person. But if you don't like them, you can cancel anytime. There's no contract. There's no nothing. And we'll switch you to another animator, another one that might fit your needs better. So this sort of opt out of who we deem is best for you. And we'll kind of figure out the kinks to make sure like the animator likes their content. They would like the animator that kind of jive. Those are sort of the details that minimize any sort of issues with the customer happiness. But that was our big realization, was like, let's see if we can do it in this sort of, I didn't use the term opt out before, but just automatically
I like opt out
and go from there. Yeah, you like that.
So we're matchmakers. Yeah.
We're essentially matchmakers. So I was kicking around this idea because this is one of the most important codes we want to crack. And also at the same time, we're on the call and we announced this buddy system. Like, we're trying to figure out the best structure for the company. And it's a lot of headaches, a lot of like principal agent problem, which is like, how do you get the employee or contractor to embody the same, like have your same interests in mind. So we want to have profit for the company. We want to scale the company. And we're constantly getting feedback like, hey, it's going to take like till mid-February to onboard this client. Like, no, that's costing us tens of thousands of dollars, $20,000 plus goodwill with this person by pushing them back on a wait list. How do we sign them up tomorrow and get everyone involved and incentivized in that? And it's just a massive fucking headache. So I'm sick of running a company, if you haven't realized. And it's a lot of people. So it's a lot.
I don't think you ever wanted to run a company. I don't know how you got here.
Totally accidental. I'm like, Belky, I don't belong here. I feel like this is, I don't know, because I'm good at like being in my bed at 6 a.m, just cooking up ideas, but I don't want to be the person like organizing all, like head of people sort of role and like motivating and all that stuff. That's just not my superpower. So I get into my bed and I keep thinking about this stuff, and I'm like, all right, we got this complex thing, and we have Clipt Media, Clipt Marketplace. Actually, I don't know my train of thought. I actually like following the text because that's exactly my train of thought. Right.
So halfway through is when you had the there were 2 lines halfway through when it all happened.
Hold on, I'm gonna read them all. I'm just gonna go through the list. Okay, so first, and we'll have if you're not watching on YouTube, watch on YouTube because it'll make a lot more sense when I B-roll up. But I go to bed at midnight, and I'm like, I'm fucking stoked, so excited about biz. And you fell asleep, so I was just on my own at that point. And I'm looking up. I'm like, let's look at some competition. Like, what are the options out there other than Fiverr, other than Upwork for video editing?
That's a great idea. That's a great idea when you're trying to go to sleep. Is just start Googling some competition.
Well, that's the thing. All my best ideas are at 4 a.m. And it's like, I feel guilty a lot because I see you doing a lot and you're doing objectively more shit than me for the company. But then once in a while I'll have an idea and I'm like, oh, maybe that idea made it worthwhile that I was just like fucking around all day. And it's one of these in sort of this, I forget what the...
Oh, that's an Abilene pop. Because I'm like, I would love to just have the 4 a.m. idea. That's the idea of all ideas.
I know, but
I get too into the operations stuff. They're just different superpowers.
Right. And that's why it works so well. Like the Denny, or not Denny Miranda. What's his, Landon?
Lenny, no. That we were on?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, he was saying like, oh, you guys complement each other so well because Henry just grinds and you just think. So this is one of my thinking sessions. And I see Video Husky and they're like, they do the subscription model essentially. It's like $750 a month. I'm like, wow, that's cheap as fuck. How do they make money? And I look into it. I'm like, Oh, okay. My brain's going in a different direction. So I looked at that. I guess I got distracted. And I'm like, I don't get it. One of our clients or two of our clients aren't producing much. How are we so inundated? We have 25 animators with for 6 active clients. Like I'm confused. And I'm like, okay, let me radically rethink things. I'm like, all right, here comes the back of the envelope math, which I love. That's like one of the big takeaways from my entrepreneurship class, which was one of my top 2 favorite classes from college, was, hey, everything should be back of the envelope math. Like, get to the unit economics of everything, see if that makes sense, and then from there you can scale it. Beautiful. They also said we had a project where in 5 years you had to get to 100 million in revenue. Just absolutely makes you think big on everything, and I love that. So I come in back of the envelope math. We have 50% margins, approximately accurate. Average animator is $1,500 a month. So if on Clipt Marketplace, if we could charge $3,000, they'd be just as valuable as Clip Media. So
how is that?
$3,000 a month. Because we have 50% margins.
Okay.
Yeah. So just double how much we pay them. So that would come out to $700 a week. So if we can charge $700 a week for an animator, we should shut down media and move everyone to the marketplace. And then I was like, well, technically, I looked at the math and it's like our margins are closer to 60%, which makes it $850. But to me, simplifying all of Clipt, like we bring everything together. We don't have to worry about like having Jack come in. We don't have to worry about like juggling the two in this little transition period. It's just shut down media, everything is marketplace, single focus.
Right.
That's
these are the 2 techs at 2:45 your time. I think we shut down media. Clipt is a marketplace. That's halfway through. That's what I woke up to. I was like, oh boy, here we go.
It's juicy. Dude, I was up at, I don't know when I went to bed, but I was up and I'm like, I just want Henry to be up. I want you to see this.
No, because I get in the way.
Yeah, you gotta let me rip. You gotta let it breathe.
You gotta let it breathe.
So I was like, here's a good thing. All our contracts are about to start or renew. Like we have all these new people coming in January, and we tell them they can hire a team directly, use them for any purpose. So right now we have issues with our mesh. We're like, he's not a 10 for 10. He's got to go. Untold, they want long form, gotta go. Whereas thinking of it this way,
I didn't even get that. I didn't even like these people were about to unload fit on the marketplace.
Anybody fits.
If it
one
fits,
size
it
fits all.
Okay.
If it fits, it ships. So that's why I'm most stoked, because I'm like, we don't need to do this 10 for 10 thing. It's a great package.
Squaring of ledges, everything. It solves everything.
It squares everything immediately. It's the one domino.
The one.
That's why I was tweaking, dude.
Wow.
So I'm like, we're Uber Black now at $750 per week. I was kind of taking the average of the two before.
Can I just
Uber X
point out
$500 a week?
Well, maybe this doesn't mean as much to the audience, but I am hearing this as the audience hears this, coming to this conclusion as the audience comes to this conclusion. But they don't know. They don't care about all the problems with trying to unload these clients that don't fit our model.
It can
been
be
a
simplified.
2-month headache.
It's clearly, we have long-term contracts and we don't want to fuck anyone. We want to work with them and long-term make them happy. So we've basically been trying to find other animators for these clients. But the problem is we need more animators for ourselves. So we're giving them like second tier, our slop clients or our slop animators. And we kind of feel bad. But we're unloading, we're losing a lot of money just to get out of these contracts. But now this sort of setup is like, hey, you get access to our animators. You can do whatever you want with them. You just pay this amount per month or week in this case.
Unlimited revisions, or are we not there yet?
They're yours, dude. They're yours.
Right.
Do whatever.
This is Uber Black. This is premium.
So the point I say here is like, we're Uber Black now. It's a high price point, but we're going to bring that down and we're going to like go outside of animators because some people don't need animation on everything. We can just give them a standard awesome Premiere editor, which is like standard video editing. So Clips.
Wait, because we were kind of eliminating long form. We were thinking there may come a day where we have to unload some of our long form editors. They still had a place cutting clips,
right?
But it wasn't a very good fit beyond that. And do you really want to be cutting clips for life if like you love editing
Not
media?
a chance.
Right.
Not a fucking chance. So Yeah, and I often have my own, like, you want to scratch your own itch. You want to make your own, you want to make a product for yourself. And my issue is like, I don't know if I want Clipped necessarily. If it's 0 to 60 second, highly animated, sometimes I just want the video with minimal animation.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't know if I'd be my
or
own
just
customer.
rough cuts.
Right. It doesn't have to be fucking gnarly. And that's why we lost a lot of people is like, hey, it might be overkill. For certain clients, it is. For others, it isn't. So I try and like succinctly say, what is our pitch? Clipped. Hire a world-class animator used by Naval, Alwyn, and Will Smith. $1,000 a week. Cancel or switch animators anytime.
That's hot.
It's just like $1,000 a week. You get the best animators in the world used by the top celebrities and influencers in your space. Cancel, switch anytime. No risk. That's
and we're just putting them in a room with that person?
Yeah, you just order Uber Black. It shows up. You rip. If you don't like it, you can cancel, refund, do anything, switch animators. That's fine. We have enough demand where we can switch that out with no issue.
Do you want to go into circumnavigation? Okay, go on.
I got a lot of text here. This is sort of, I want to wait
pushing back
where we
calls.
can save all our text from history. Oh, true. We have that call. Yeah.
No.
This is
I'm pushing them back, Pop.
Okay. I'm going to keep reading.
Ripping.
Okay. Our clients are effectively receiving the same deal. So it's nothing. Dharmesh could use us. Untold could use us. We're not in competition with ourselves.
Wait, can I add something? It's a good lesson. It's from the great CEO within. The second you know you can't make an engagement, it is your obligation to tell that person you are going to be late so that they themselves can manage their time and not be waiting for you. That's all I'll say.
It gets to one thing I wanted to say with Uber, like Rory Sutherland. I quote him a lot, actually. I told Matt the other day, I'm like, hey, you know the elevator buttons to close the door, they don't work. It's just psychology. It's like you hit it, makes you feel. I tested it. I did a little stopwatch to make sure I wasn't bullshitting. It doesn't change anything. It's just like, I did my part. Same thing with probably crossing the street and those little buttons. But Uber, they solved this big problem of you're looking for a taxi. If you don't see one, you get worried. It's like, when is it going to show up? You don't know. Versus what you said before, you pop open the app and you see a bunch of cars driving around, which
they're fake, by the way.
Faking.
They're fake. I'm reading the book. Super pumped.
Yeah, awesome. But basically, people just want to know, what's the ETA? Like, when am I going to be picked up? Then I can organize my life around that. And that's kind of what's
even if it's longer than like what reality would be. Knowing is better than the wishy-washy volatility. And
that's what we say. Kind of, I'll get into this in a bit, but one of the most important things for our team is just communication. And by communication, we just mean we want an ETA. Like, give us a rough ETA. That way we know you're live and we know what to expect. Beyond that,
and then we can fight for you.
A huge deal. So I tell them basically kind of what I said before. We're like, with Zach of the Untold, I'm trying to find him an animator, but an animator that wouldn't work with us. So I'm kind of giving him this shittier animator. And I feel bad, but we're giving him a great deal, so it makes sense. But he's like, hey, what happens if they leave or they're not awesome? Can you help me find another one? And I'm like, fuck, well, we got to hire 25 of our own. But now it's like, sure, $1,000 a week. Do whatever you want with them. And now we're just hiring animators. That's all our company is just go hire
Which
a
is
bunch
all
of animators
we've
for
really
now.
done.
Right.
Mostly.
But we just do it better.
Yeah.
Like our job, we're talking about, for the next month, we're going to be in the spaceship. All we're doing is hyper growth, hiring as many animators. Like Henry and I are going to fly to the Philippines and figure it the fuck out. But that's just our job forever. That is our job, is just bringing people to the marketplace. That's our focus. Because the demand is there.
People that are A+,
we'll see.
Pass some quality control of communication, edit style, and speed, or whatever it is.
Exactly.
Like, you don't get on the platform unless you pass those tests.
I keep ripping. We're Uber Black now, $1,000 a week. We're using our existing team who's already familiar with the process. We collaborate to build the best experience possible, then scale to lower price points. So basically, we already have our team, and nothing in the structure with our existing clients is really changing.
Oh, like, hey, wow. See, I didn't get this. This didn't compute.
It's all here. It's like, you already have 2 animators on your buddy system. That's plus a little bit of GA and some oversight, but that essentially costs 10 grand and your existing 10 for 10. That also costs 10 grand here because it's like a little over 4 grand for each animator that you hire, which is like, call it 8-9 grand. And then plus the little extra of like graphic artists tap into those resources. It comes out to the same. So we're transitioning all our clients over again, which we tend to do a lot, but nothing is effectively going to change because they're already communicating directly with our team. So it's no big deal. It's literally the buddy system, just restructured in terms of how people pay.
And the clients we currently have, they can either keep doing roughly 10 clips a month, or they can do whatever they want.
Right. We were pigeonholing. This is better for them because now you can do whatever you want. We don't have to force them.
What if
10
what
for
if
10.
they were coming to us as an agency because you and I have an idea of what they should do for content?
That is one of the concerns. I listed out like 20 different concerns. One of them was strategy. But then at the end of the day, I'm like, what is our strategy? Consistently make
consistency,
cool content.
Right? So
that's just it. So we kind of, I'll get into it in a bit with concerns, but one of them is like we make a crash course for both the customer or the creator, we can call them, and then a crash course for the creative. So the animator in this case. And they both have crash course, like here's how to work together. Here's how to make this awesome. We can sort of automate that. So we remove ourselves. Okay. Then I keep going. So yeah, we want to start at 1,000 and then work our way down to lower the price. The main issue, kind of the issue with Fiverr and other things, is going outside the platform because this is literally direct arbitrage. So how do we add value and make it so that both the creative and the customer don't want to circumvent us? And this is an interesting problem. Do you want me to just keep reading, or do you want to like talk about how you would think about this?
Well, I had a
curious.
completely separate question. I guess before we go into circumventing, what's Video Husky's deal? Why don't people go there? 5 days per week,
well, one thing I realized,
$750 a month. You know, it's unlimited revisions.
I looked at their first video, like they're a video company. Their sales video is kind of shitty. And this gets back to what I talked about with Don yesterday, is he was like, how is this different than just any other agency that's going to find me an editor or an animator? I'm like, you can do that. But we're not even qualified to review the animators. We have the best animators in the world. Literally, Naval and all these billionaires are begging for them to work for them. They're reviewing everyone that comes through. And we're like, these are approved by Clipt, the animators that work on the best content in the world. And we're giving them to you for $1,000 a week. It's like, oh, okay. That screening process. So it's social proof of we work with the best. That's our angle, at least at the start. And then going forward, it's going to be that process of screening that no one else has. Because you go on Fiverr, it's overwhelming. We do all that work for you. We just spit it to you. If you don't like them, you can always switch. But we're going to give you who we think is the best.
Yeah. Okay. So circumventing the platform, because this is a problem on Upwork. I think I've even tried to do it. It's like you go there, you find someone, Upwork takes fees. Both of you are like, well, shit, we should probably just do this via email. But you can't. Right. Fiverr, same deal.
In the terms and conditions?
Fiverr has some tools where, like, if they see you exchanging phone numbers or emails in the direct messaging, they'll like flag it and they'll warn you and they'll like do all these things. And you can get kicked off the platform for doing that.
Right. So that, and I think, I forget what the cut is or the take, but it's probably 10 or 20%. It's not that high, or it's decent, but compared to us at 50%, we're much, much higher.
Oh, is that what it would be?
Like,
or that's baked in?
Because we're taking in $1,000 a week, but it only costs us $500 a week.
Got it.
For the animator and sort of some of the resources. So basically, that's the big issue is like, okay, there's this big margin. What keeps them from going away? So that's where I'm playing around with this still.
You got to the one-liner. And let's get there because that was very clear for me. And actually, it's the reason it's the reason people have rejected my advances on Fiverr to just email them. It's the fact that they want job security. If they hang out
Right.
on Fiverr or if they hang out on Clipt and they follow the rules, they get all of our benefits, yes. But if they're working with a brand new podcast that's just kind of fucking around, they also have the job security for when that podcast disappears, when that Henry on Fiverr disappears because he's a maniac. Oh, I have the next job lined up through Clipt. It's secure.
Right. And I've heard this. I've seen like reviews of people say, oh, I tried to go off the platform. They got me on WhatsApp and then they ghosted me. And now I'm like, oh, fuck, is Fiverr going to take me back? And they don't want to be fucked. This is the number one thing that we've seen it ourselves and we've heard it before with, especially in the Philippines, is rather than say risk taking and ambition, which there still is that, but to a much lesser degree, they tend to prioritize security. Like, am I going to be able to feed my family, have just a good life? That's the most important thing. So in this model that I'm proposing, it's, hey, we're going to guarantee you X amount of money. Like, I'll kind of get to the numbers, but you don't have to worry about that. Just stay on the platform. You don't go off it. We're going to guarantee you money. We're going to give you severance if anything ever happens and you decide to leave.
I don't know if we can
if you
do that.
Leave,
if they're independent contractors, I don't know if you can do that.
Okay. Thank you, General Counsel. Whatever it might be, we can bake that in somewhere else and kind of whatever. But say if you go off the platform, we're never allowing you back. You're blacklisted. So if you're concerned about security, and obviously we're going to treat you well, we're going to kind of, I get into some of this, but like we can even get to weekly pay with the animators. Always pay on time, always just be amazing to work with. They're never going to want to leave to, yes, make more money, but that's not necessarily their main ambition. Their main ambition, and we even have this with some of our team that we're trying to promote to managers. It's like, hey, I came here to just edit. I just love creating. And I don't really want to manage people necessarily.
Right.
So we're like, okay, awesome. Just do that. And we're going to guarantee that. So I kind of talk about that. I also talk about how similar to like a real estate agency. Is that what you call it? Realtor agency? I don't know.
Realty?
Real. I forget what they're called. But basically they do like the marketing and they take a cut of everything a realtor makes, but they give the marketing. They bring in the clients. They help with all that stuff. So similarly, we could maybe have a pool of basically what we already do with time cutters and graphic artists, and they can just tap those resources whenever they need, along with all the software that we offer that can kind of, I don't know legally if we can, well, we can probably do it. It doesn't really matter legally for a little bit, but the point is they're kind of incentivized from that angle too, to want us because they don't want to have to figure out how to have their own graphic artists, and they don't like doing that work.
I'm zooming out 10 years, seeing you in the Netflix documentary, in slow motion. Oh, it doesn't have to be legal for a bit. It goes black and white, and then the gates close and you're in jail.
I'll be in there for another reason. See, that's the problem when I say these things is like, now you could go in the future and like, if there's anything I ever did, they're like, oh, Dylan knew about it. I'm like, no.
Anything you say can and will be used against you.
So then I make this point, and there are a lot of texts, so we're just going to rip them all. I really like this, so just bear with us.
I'm having a blast, Pop.
Hey, glad you got the bean juice, you double stemmed. So I said, basically, the service 10 for 10 becomes the product
we ain't even there yet. Okay. One more time. 10 for 10.
The service, because we try to make it a product, but it's still technically a service. The service 10 for 10 becomes the product 1 for 1. One world-class animator for 1K a week. And that is the thing. It's the offer. Like, my whole mentality is we know the gold is here. It's somewhere, and we're mining for it. But what you're looking for is that super simple offer. You just want to simplify. So it's a no-brainer. It's almost like a caveman would accept that deal. That's what you want. And it's like 1 for 1. Oh, one awesome animator, 1 video per week. I don't know what, but you want to speak to the physical, like the caveman brain of people. And 1 for 1, to me, at least, it makes a ton of sense. It is expensive, but people are already paying this.
Yeah, the
So
second I
we're
told
just
my dad, he
transitioning
was like,
about
"What's 10 for 10?" I'm like, "You're not a caveman." All right, onward.
you two evolved.
He said, "Then what's 10
so
for
then
10 for 10?" I'm like, "Hey, slow down."
So I kind of get into stuff about how to keep people, job security, like I said before. I can use some terms. And then then I get into the principal agent problem that we have. It's like, how do you make sure our incentives are aligned? We both want to make the most money in the long term by keeping happy customers engaged.
I think people should go to school and only learn the principal agent problem. That's it. It's everything.
That's Naval's thing. Well, it is everything. It's like, I think about it a lot. I'm like 10 for 10. We're kind of principal agent there. We're shoving 10 for 10 down their throat. That might not be the best for them. They might not need 10 for 10. But we're like, hey, take it. Whereas now, with 1 for 1, we're a lot more aligned. We're like, you know what's best for your company? We're just going to give you that awesome animator and rip.
I'm only worried about the people that don't know what's best for their company.
But I think the crash course, we can solve those issues. We'll talk about some concerns. This is going to be a long one. But I keep talking. So I'm like, okay, we looked at sort of the demand side to some extent. Let's look at the supply side. Like, what are we actually paying? How do we get our incentives aligned? And we've been fucking around with this. Incentives are so tricky. And it's actually Charlie Munger. He says, if you can work on incentives, make that the only thing you work on, because they run the world. So, and that's behind the principal agent problem. So I say, at least for Black, every animator is paid $1,500 to $2,500 depending on reviews. Guaranteed income. 5-star review for that client is a $500 bonus. If 3 clients decide to switch you out, you're downgraded to Uber X. Like, you get bumped down a tier and you're going to be at a lower pay level. Ladders and levels, which is something we keep referencing. Dude, this could work. I like step out of it. I'm like, dude,
I like the positive self-talk in there.
Dude, 4:30. Sometimes I'm crazy, but then I look. I was going through and rereading all my texts. That's why I say, dude, this would work, because I send it all and then I start from the top and I reread it. I'm like, dude, this could work. It's because you're not there. It's just me talking to myself.
I've gone through it 3 times and it still holds up. Dude, this could work.
Literally, yeah. So
it hasn't broken.
We're no longer running an agency. We're running a freelancer marketplace. Concern is it's less fun for the team, but after my suicidal scribble experience today, I don't think we have much fun as it is. It's like, we think it's fun, but
yeah, I think the point there is like
10% of the time.
It's an all remote company. We don't do any meetings. Everyone's working on projects themselves. It's not
right.
It's probably not that fun. It's just a really secure job.
Right. I think that's the most important. We like to think, but we don't like meetings, like you said. So we're pushing away from fun things. I talk about our highest paid animator. And then I'm wondering about the pay structure. This is me, like, my active thoughts, which is what's fun to me. But I'm like, Koi, say he's paid more than another editor on our team. Then how do we figure out that difference and account for it? Well, I think, let me just read what I say. That's what I think. Smart. We let the client reviews dictate the bonuses. What do we care about? Happy clients that stay subscribed. That's it. Pretty much a happy client because they'll stay subscribed. How do we measure this? I like when I ask myself questions because it's a one-sided communication out here. So I'm like, happiness. Okay, let's measure the first one. Happiness every month.
That's actually so crazy. That is so crazy. There's a text where you're asking yourself questions.
It's literally
you did 2 in a row. It's crazy.
Yeah. I do it partly for me, partly for you.
Yeah, no, you could have just said, instead of saying, what do we care about? Happy clients that stay subscribed. You could have just said, we care about happy clients. But no, you got to ask the question. You're alone in a room.
Gotta ask the question. I want you engaged, and it's me talking to myself in the dark, naked. Happiness. Every month, customers rate the service from 1 to 5. 5 equals a $500 bonus. 4 equals we ask them how to make it a 5. So basically, 4 is where we're kind of content. Like, we're not going to bonus you, but we're not going to fuck you for any reason. If it's below a 4, that'll be like 1 strike or something like that, potentially. That way, we kind of have the skin in the game. where both you get the upside, but you're also on the hook for some of the downside.
For your reviews, right, and how you conduct yourself.
Which is awesome because right now we have this issue of how do we measure customer happiness or client happiness? We're not really in the trenches. We don't know how happy everyone is. But if we're just focused on the marketplace, this is our number one goal, to keep happy customers subscribed. We're going to be measuring the shit out of their happiness and making sure we do everything to keep them subscribed. So it's going to be a lot more laser focused. It's going to be a better experience overall for them. So then I kind of switch in my head. I'm like, okay, subscribed every month. They're still subscribed. We give a $500 bonus to that animator. But then I'm like, okay, maybe that's too much. Basically, base rate for everyone is $1,500. So you could make up to $2,500. But the bar is pretty low for 5 stars because like generally people are nice and don't want to, like, I always give 5 stars in Ubers and stuff. So I'm playing around with stuff, but then I'm like, okay, simple monthly pay, $1,500 base. Every 5-star review, you get $250. If they're still subscribed by the end of that month, you also get $250. It's like,
got you.
This double incentive. I want to keep them happy. I want to make sure they're still engaged. Everyone paid more than they are now because right now our max pay is like $1,800. So you could, in theory, make up to $2,000 if you're good. And we have some animators below this base. So it would get everyone up to an awesome level. And then I try and summarize it for you just because I'm like, that was a fucking shitstorm. Also for myself, because I'm like, let me make sure this all makes sense. I'm like, Clipt equals marketplace. 1 for 1. One world-class animator for $1K a week. Uber Black now, Uber X, and Uber Pool for lower prices later. Monthly animator economics, sort of those unit economics we're talking about. 4K, basically a little over 4K revenue, a little over 2K expenses. That means $2,000 in profit. Every single animator that we bring in is $2,000 profit a month. So call it almost 25 grand a year, but then account for some expenses. So it's like about 20K. Every animator we bring in every year is worth 20K to us. So if you have 25 animators, which our current team is, that's 50K a month in pure profit between Henry and I in this case. So then I'm like, okay, what are the next steps? 5 steps to scale. Transition all clients to this model, which kind of sucks because we've been doing it a lot, but it's actually the easiest transition ever because nothing's really changing and it's actually better for our clients like Dharmesh and Untold. Step 2, refine the customer experience. So we want to make sure we test it all out. We like make sure there aren't any cracks in this pipe before we try and add more pressure to it and expand it. I guess that analogy doesn't quite make sense, but we're just going to test everything to make sure everything's awesome. And then we'll start scaling up from there. How do we scale? Step 3, we buy ads to attract world-class animators. This is what we were talking about in our last call. We're like, we're going to spend 50 grand next month just on marketing to bring in more animators. Here, that's kind of step 3. That's what we want to focus on because that's our main job, or 2 main jobs, is like bring in animators, make sure everyone's happy. Step 4, build Clip X and Pool so we can, with all these excess applicants, because we are screening people, so they might not be ready for Uber Black, but they would fit for the Uber X or Clipped X.
Which solves, I've always thought like, well, why don't we just train people? We have this funnel problem with getting people in.
It is
like, you're either the best or you're not, and we're doing the best work, and that's true. But this platform's now a spectrum. So people can move up.
They can move up, they can move down, they can go anywhere. It's kind of bringing them to where they should probably be, more or less, in a lot fairer way than we currently have. What I like about
Mr.
this
Free
too,
Market.
It's a little bit dangerous, but we're guaranteeing them money, so the security is still there. And I'm like, ultimate step 5, before it was get bought out, but I thought it'd be funny. I'm like, buy Fiverr. Fuck it. We're going to run the world.
There are so many, because of these chips on my shoulder, there are so many places I just want to buy and shut down. I've told you I'm not going to name names here, but you can expect if anything Dylan just said, we will be buying you and shutting you down.
Yeah, a lot of chips.
Don't cross us.
Prefer not. Sorry, inside joke. Yeah, I think that's it for at least the text brain blast. Wow. I kept going in my notes, but I wanted to end on that Gardaloo.
Ended with a Gardaloo. 2 things we need to do. Maybe you could outline some concerns. And we're not going to do it. We need to do it offline. We can't do, I'm going to have a stroke if we do it here, but we need to do that kind of Amazon, setting aside an empty seat in the room with us, those empty seats are the perspective of an animator, that persona, and the perspective of a client.
That's from Dharmesh, right? Oh,
Is
did
that
you get that from
Dharmi D?
Amazon?
I think it was Amazon.
Dharmesh had a video, empty chair, and I remember I sucked on the thumbnail.
Yeah, the empty chair rule, right? So it's like, well, what does AJ think about everything you just said? And Dharmesh as a client, what does he think about everything you just said? Because I know in my head, like Dharmesh wants us to figure out his strategy problems. He doesn't want to do it himself and bring them to the platform. But that's a whole different conversation.
Right. What's nice is I think it would work for all our current clients. Actually, I wanted to tell you this before this call with Jonathan, because I'm like, hey, we just sell them this. We can immediately test it. We don't need the empty chair. We're just like, Jonathan's in the chair.
So you come into the call now.
I kind of want to hear his pushback and get it. Unless you just relay it to me after. I don't want to like fuck up the one-on-one vibe. It might be better one-on-one, honestly. But I wanted you to pitch this to him.
He signed to talk to both of us. By the way, this is from Rich Dad, Poor Dad. You always have, we've talked about this. You got to have a cat, a partner that you like, you can hear things, but you don't want to be committal on the phone. You got to take it to your partner. It can be your cat. It can be your dog. So we show up to these calls one-on-one, and then you're like, well, I got to talk to some people. So you don't have to do stuff on the phone.
But one thing I did learn, I took this from Naval and Matt Machary. They had a video about hiring a CEO. And for some reason, they talked about these sort of calls. And you don't want to be caught off guard. Often the calls are unnecessary. So you're like, hey, can I get a preview of what we're going to talk about in the call? It's like a nice way of asking for an agenda. And often they'll give you that preview and they'll just be like, oh, here are the answers that you were looking for. You don't even need the call. Or you get on the call and you're more informed. And it's just a more productive call.
Best case scenario, you just hit the preview with bullet points.
It's phenomenal. So what did you say before that? Oh, yeah, I want to be on that call.
I just think
test
calls
it
are
out.
Unfair.
The empty chair rule is cool, but the nice thing is we don't even need the empty chair because that's for like a startup, especially.
We know a lot.
We have
of
product market fit. We're just making sure the model makes sense so we can test it on both sides. Let me look through.
What if
I got
then,
a bunch of notes.
What you could do is you could take half of our clients, or you could really sell this thing to just first the people we have to unload.
Right.
Because they're not
test it on the people
manage
with the highest
some of the
need.
downside. Yeah.
Right.
And then if it works for them.
Yeah, let's keep talking over each other. No, sorry, I talk a lot. But okay, a couple notes, and then I want to get into concerns because it's just interesting, and I want to have a record of this in the future.
Yeah, hurry up!
Still
come
here.
If you're still here, you're welcome. You are welcome. That was just a crash course in, I don't know, economics, startups, a million things.
That's kind of my point. Is what's interesting with the business. Like we are currently executives running the ship. I'm going to change the analogy. We're basically giving this block of marble. We're like, we know this marble is valuable. It's awesome. It's all our animators. People want to buy the marble, but not really in its current form. So how do we shape it? What is the most attractive, where the Michelangelo is trying to create the David? And before 10 for 10 was like fucking David without, it's like David with fucking, I don't know.
No nose?
Weak. He didn't look cool. He didn't have an ass or something. Or like, I don't know how to hold the analogy, but basically we're trying to carve this beautiful sculpture and we're getting a lot closer. At least it feels that way. We haven't tested it. This was just 10 hours ago that I thought about it, and it might backfire, but I think it solves a lot of problems. And it would scratch our own itch because I'm like, I personally, now that I have the money, I would spend $1,000 a week if I just had a dedicated, amazing, world-class animator, and they're just ripping on my channel.
That's how this all started.
Probably do that.
Easy, probably, right? We got to.
Well,
we have to certainly do that.
No, I would certainly do Uber X. I'm just not sure if I'm rich enough yet to do Uber Black.
Right. Yeah, this started because you did Uber X, which was, Erica and Ken. Yeah.
Okay. So let me get through some other thoughts on animation. Okay. So yeah, basically one thing that I liked from Airbnb when they were creating their product was, how do we make this a 13-star experience? What would that look like? And then let's scale back to 10. Like always go above. We do this with our team to think bigger, go to the extreme, go to the 10x, and then figure out how to scale it back to what's more feasible today. I want to do that where it's like, you need an editor, you hit a button as if you're calling an Uber, and then it tells you ETA, your clip's going to be done in 2 hours. It's just amazing like that. And that's kind of what I love about being an actual product is you can laser focus on this and not worry about the little like back and forth customer strategy and stuff like that kind of bogs you down, gets you distracted. Like I was on a call for almost 2 hours the other day and it ruined my day. But it was awesome. Like I love the call. It's just like I couldn't do anything else after. So let me rip through some concerns. Do we have 9 minutes, Belky?
Yeah.
Less. Okay.
Why don't you throw them out, and then if this comes out in time, people can comment on this video, and they can say, hey, here's what I think and how I would use the marketplace and what I think about everything you said. How about that?
Well, we have a queue of like 20 videos, so we'll see. But maybe we push it.
Boom or bust by then.
Hey, I'm gonna bring up the concern. You bring up how you'd solve it, and I'll see if our answer is the same. A little fun game. How about that?
Yeah.
Clients paying for China and Koi the same rate. Sorry, I'm using names, but like Koi's our all-star, so like he's just on, like everyone says he's on another level. So like substitute any name.
Right.
Like,
I think you crowdsource this with reviews, and like you said, you pay based on the quality of your output as an editor, and then some bonus structure that's based on reviews.
Right. So hopefully everyone moves forward to Koi. I think at the end of the day, it's just like we're guaranteeing this basic level. Beyond that, you're just lucky if you got.
Koi is also just he's the best at what we need right now.
Right, he might not be the best.
Right.
He's just really quick with what we do, but he's also awesome. So who knows? He's probably awesome with everything. One other concern, I got a bunch, so we'll rip through.
Hey, you weren't shaming China, by the way.
I know. I don't mean to say that. It's more so Koi's just a god. He's been declared by our team as a god, so I think that's great.
An alien.
China's just like China's good that she's on.
China's an OG.
Like, the front of my mind. No internal review. So right now we have the head of 6 review the content. Now we're just giving them the animator, so we don't have that internal review. What do we do?
It depends. Most of our review is grammar and stuff. If people are just editing video, I don't know how much grammar comes into play, right? If you think about one of my vlogs, for instance, practically no grammar. There's no text in the vlog.
Right.
That's one thought. That doesn't need review, but
yeah. So basically, I was like, hey, it's good enough without our review normally. Usually, like you said, it's grammar. We have a fix for that, and
we have a fix for that with short form content. So that'll be something to think about.
True. That's a good point. But then longer form, hey, you just that's your problem. But then
you're unloading the review onto the client.
Right.
Which could be better or worse.
We'll basically give them the crash course. So it's like, here's how to review, here's how to give feedback to the creative. And then also, if you're really concerned but have the budget, just hire 2 and tell them to give feedback to each other. And that's like how you can get better creative feedback.
True.
There are probably better solutions, but lonely, like it's lonely because now you go from the buddy system to you're just hired by one person.
Okay, I'm envisioning at one point, Uber rented out like the entire Las Vegas Strip, and they hired all these crazy DJs, and there was just like Uber Fest, and it was crazy, and it was bad for a lot of reasons. I think we do that. Clipt Fest.
Clipt Fest it is. Yeah, I think that plus just like more hangouts, stuff like that. I don't know. We can have our head of people figure out how to coordinate these things, but it's not that much different than what we're already doing. And we can put more money and attention to it. What happens with Clipt the brand? Like, what happens with all our, say, all-in edits, Naval edits? That's not a big concern. I basically said we'll just reserve a team for that. Security, we talked about. Billing, I'll just go through this because a couple of them are quick. Billing, I'm like, hey, it's billed monthly. So you're billed monthly, but if you cancel kind of like any other subscription, you have till the end of the month to keep using the service. But you can also just switch animators. We're happy to do that, and maybe we'll like give some incentive so you're not fucked as much if you do. How do you, with onboarding, how do they not waste time? Like right now we have this sort of like week or 2 weeks ahead of time where we get up to speed with the client, the branding, everything like that. We don't charge them for that. That's just so we can hit the ground running. How do they hit the ground running where they're not paying this week, but they don't get an edit for another week or 2?
I think you give them the crash course, or we have some amazing onboarding flow that walks them through. Upload your footage here. Fill out a story brand script here. Tell us who is the hero, who's the guide, what's the plan, who's the villain, whatever. I told you this yesterday. Basically, walk them through all the frameworks that we walk our team through and just automate them.
Right.
So by the time they're done with those frameworks, the team's, their animators ready to rip.
This is what I love about code is you're solving the same problem over and over, so you can just automate it. And that's what onboarding would be in that case.
Yeah, we just do that manually. We got to get on Bubble Pop. Yes.
I know. Pretty soon.
Okay.
One thing that was annoying is credit card fees is 3%. So the nice thing is we charge this all on credit card. That's what you've been dreaming of. The problem is if we're doing, say, 100K in revenue right now, then we're going to pay $3,000 a month. And it's only going to get higher, which is kind of annoying. Not a big deal for convenience.
But yeah, for convenience and all of the things we deal with, because we're not a credit card product, probably worth it.
But it's just funny because we're going to be charging like $5,000 essentially in credit cards. And like, why do we pay 3%? Like, it's just one transaction. Can't you charge us like $5 for the, but that's why that made me think of crypto, because crypto doesn't matter. You're just going to pay one fee. It's kind of like a wire. I'm like, can we accept crypto? Because that's kind of this growing market for us.
Maybe.
Strategy. I got like 3 more.
That's
Strategy.
my biggest one.
What do we
That's
do
my
with that?
biggest one. Is people coming to us to be the white glove agency. We'll figure that out.
Crash
That
course.
is the biggest in my head.
Trust that we're going to give them an awesome animator.
Social proof, review system, good price, cancel anytime. No, it doesn't cost you anything to try.
And then it's just the pool of resources. I don't know if that's even viable, but having the time cutter, the graphic artist, coordinating all of that, like how you tap into it, I think there's just some concerns there, but we don't have to go over them.
All right, Pop.
Basically, point being, this is one of those interesting points where we think we might have figured out a new, potentially interesting business model, a lot more scalable, a lot more interesting. We don't need Jack in this case, which is crazy to me. We just heads down, we focus on this, we're all excited about it, we move everyone over and just scale from there. I don't have any major
excited
concerns.
this afternoon
like
to let our accountant, our tax consultant, my father, and Jack know about all this. They are going to love the new flip-flop.
And they're going to love that the last email I said we're going to be a C Corp, and now we're going to be an LLC.
Yes, sir. And with that, Gardaloo.
Gardaloo!